My name is Elise Morgan. I'm 32 years old, and I've spent the last decade of my life working in nonprofit outreach, wearing secondhand blazers, and driving the same rusting Toyota I got in college. I never thought that would be a problem. Until I met Adam. Adam came from a family where wealth wasn't just money, it was legacy. His father sat on 3 corporate boards. His mother spoke in private school hush tones and only smiled with her lips. His sister Claire once said she considered people like me charming, like pets. But Adam, he was nothing like them. I met him at a community fundraiser where he was volunteering anonymously. I was plating pasta, covered in sauce and stress, and he walked in holding 10 boxes of donations like it was the most natural thing in the world. We didn't fall in love all at once. It was quieter than that, slower. A friendship that turned into late-night walks, long phone calls, shared playlists, and that one weekend at the lake when I finally realized I didn't just like him, I trusted him, and I loved him. But love wasn't enough for his family. The first time I met them, I wore a navy dress from a thrift store. Claire eyed the fabric like it offended her. His mother barely concealed her confusion when I told her what I did for a living. Outreach? She asked, tilting her head. Like social work? Adam squeezed my hand under the table. I smiled and nodded. Dinner that night was a performance, and I wasn't invited to play the lead. His father asked 0 questions about me. His mother asked about my future plans, emphasis on a better career. And Claire? Claire looked me up and down and asked where I bought my shoes. When I answered honestly, she blinked and said, "Oh, brave of you to come here like that." I didn't cry that night. Not even when Adam apologized a dozen times on the drive home. I told him it was fine, that I didn't need their approval. I lied. Because a week later, the rumors started. Claire told a mutual friend of ours, someone from the fundraiser circuit, that I was after his money. His mother called my apartment charming in a tragic way. And Adam, bless his heart, tried to defend me every step of the way. But every time he showed up for me, they just doubled down. "You're not good enough for him," Claire said, at a gala, casually, as if she were commenting on the hors d'oeuvres. I left early that night. My heart was pounding, and not in the good way. It wasn't about the money, or their mansion, or their connections. It was the way they looked at me like I was temporary, like I was a stain on Adam's perfect record. And somewhere deep down, I started to wonder if they were right. But then, something happened. Adam proposed. Not at a fancy dinner. Not on a yacht. He did it in my tiny apartment kitchen, barefoot, while I was making us grilled cheese and laughing at a dumb podcast. He pulled out a ring I later found out he'd bought months ago, and he said, "You make everything feel like home. I want that forever." I said yes. And then, the real war began. I should have known the engagement wouldn't change anything. Naively, I thought a ring on my finger would somehow earn me a sliver of respect, that the woman Adam wanted to marry would be someone his family had to accept. They didn't. Claire was the first to react. "We're doing brunch on Sunday," she said flatly, the day after we announced it. "Just family. You don't have to come." I asked Adam, "Does she mean I'm not family?" He didn't answer right away, and that pause, it carved something out of me. He wasn't defending them anymore, but he also wasn't defending me the way I needed. Not yet. At the brunch I wasn't invited to, Claire apparently stood up and said, "He's marrying her out of guilt. He thinks fixing broken people makes him noble." Broken. That was the word they always came back to, like I was some cracked vase Adam found at a thrift store and decided to polish. A few days later, his mother invited him to lunch, not me. "I think we should talk about prenups," she told him. "It's just practical, Adam." He told her no, firmly, then called me and said, "I think it's time we talk about the wedding and who's actually going to be there." So we did. We sat at my tiny dining table, pen and paper in hand, and started writing names, friends, his cousins, my college roommate. But when I reached for the other list, his parents, his sister, his father's business partners, Adam froze. "Do you want them there?" I asked softly. He looked up, and I saw the weariness in his eyes. I Don't want you to cry in the bathroom on our wedding day because they made you feel like you don't belong. I didn't say anything for a moment. I won't cry, I whispered. Not anymore. He looked at me, really looked at me, and then tore the second list in half. They're not coming, he said. Not one of them. Not after everything. They've said. I knew what that would cost him. His family's anger, their money, their cold, quiet punishment, but he didn't flinch. He chose me. The day we sent out invitations, we sent them only to the people who had stood beside us, who hadn't made me feel like I had to earn a place I already had. The rest, their invitations never came. But silence has a sound. And theirs came crashing through in texts, in voicemails, in messages that ranged from shocked to cruel. His mother sent a 3-line message. We assumed the invitations were delayed. Adam, surely there's been a mistake. Claire is devastated. He replied with 2 words. Not invited. The backlash was brutal. Claire posted a cryptic story online. Some people mistake pity for love. Good luck with that. His father sent an email titled, A Disgrace. I didn't read it. Adam did. Then deleted it, without a word. For the first time, they saw that their power over him had ended, that their words, their judgments, their dismissals meant nothing now. He wasn't playing along anymore. And I finally let myself breathe. We moved forward, booked a small venue overlooking the cliffs, sent thank yous to people who cheered for us instead of whispering behind our backs. And as the date drew closer, something inside me hardened, but not in a bitter way. In a strong way. Because when people tell you you're not good enough over and over, you either break or you build a spine made of stone. I was done breaking. The weeks leading up to the wedding were peaceful, almost suspiciously so. No more texts, no more veiled posts, silence like the eye of a storm. I told myself they'd finally accepted it, that maybe they realized their absence wouldn't ruin anything. I was wrong. 3 days before the wedding, I got a call from the venue coordinator. Hi Elise, quick question. Are you adding anyone to the guest list last minute? A Claire Whitmore just called and asked about meal preferences, but she's not on the official list. I nearly dropped my phone. Do not let her in, I said, ice filling my chest. I don't care what she says. She's not invited. None of them are. The coordinator hesitated. She said she was the groom's sister. She still isn't invited. I called Adam. He was furious. Called Claire directly and told her, in no uncertain terms, that the day wasn't about her, and if she tried to show up, security would turn her away. Claire just laughed. I'm not coming to make a scene, she said. I just want to witness it. You'll want pictures with your real family, won't you? He hung up, then turned to me and said, If she shows up, I'll walk out until she's gone. But I had another idea. Wedding day came. The sun was glowing gold over the cliffs. I wore a gown I'd saved for and paid off over 7 months. It wasn't designer, but it felt like me, soft, structured, and honest. Adam looked at me like I was everything he'd ever wanted. We were halfway through the ceremony, standing at the altar, when I heard it. Heels on gravel, fast, Claire, wearing white. It wasn't a wedding dress, but it was close enough. Cream, silk, plunging neckline, a fascinator perched on her glossy curls like she was the one getting married. Gasps rippled through the seated guests as she marched in, pretending like nothing was wrong. She tried to sit in the second row, right behind Adam's college friends. The usher stopped her. I'm sorry, but you're not on the guest list. She smiled. I'm family. The usher glanced at me. I nodded once. No exceptions, he said, firm. Please step away from the seating area. She hesitated. People were watching now. I stepped forward, not because I needed drama, but because this was my moment, and I wasn't going to let it be tainted. Claire, I said, voice steady, you told me I wasn't good enough for your brother. You made fun of my clothes, my apartment, my job. You called me broken. You're not here to support us. You're here to be seen. Gasps, whispers. Her face flushed, but she didn't move. So I turned to the guests and picked up the mic from The stand. My hands weren't even shaking. I want to say something before we continue, I said, my voice carrying through the sea of faces. For anyone who's ever been told they're not enough, for anyone who's been made to feel small, disposable, or invisible, this moment is for you. I looked at Adam. He gave the smallest nod, his eyes shining. I'm marrying a man who saw past all of that, who didn't care about my paycheck or my past, who shut every door on people who tried to belittle me and opened a new life instead. And for those who couldn't be bothered to stand by us in love, you don't get to sit by us now in celebration. There was a pause, a heavy one. Claire's mouth opened, but no words came. She turned and walked out, this time without the sound of heels, just silence, real silence, the kind that tastes like victory. We got back to the vows, and I've never spoken words with more meaning in my life. I wasn't just marrying Adam that day. I was marrying the version of myself that finally believed she was enough. After Claire left, everything felt lighter, like someone had cracked open a window and let the poison out. The ceremony finished with laughter and tears, and when Adam kissed me, I swear the cliffs themselves could have applauded. We were surrounded by people who mattered, real friends, found family, people who didn't care about bank accounts or bloodlines, only love. The reception was intimate. Golden string lights over long farmhouse tables, wildflowers in mason jars, soft jazz humming under the sound of clinking glasses and chatter. For the first time in a long time, I felt present, not watching from the outside, not performing, just me. But peace, I've learned, doesn't mean you're safe. Sometimes it's just the calm before the next little heartbreak. During dessert, someone tapped my shoulder. Elise? I turned and froze. It was Adam's cousin, Maria, one of the few relatives who hadn't been vocal about anything, which made her a non-threat. Or so I thought. I know I wasn't supposed to come, she said quickly, but I begged Adam's aunt to bring me as her +1. I needed to see you. Adam caught sight of her and stiffened immediately. I held up a hand. It's okay, I whispered. Maria was shaking. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. This is from my mother, she said. She wanted me to give it to you. I told her not to send it, but... I opened it after she left. Inside was a note. One line. When this doesn't work out, you'll wish you'd had us. No signature, just bitterness, boxed in paper. I stared at it for a moment, then quietly folded it back in and slid it under a nearby plate. Adam sat beside me. Want me to say something? No, I said. She just reminded me why I didn't invite them. Later that night after dinner, my best friend stood up to give a toast. Then Adam's college roommate, then my old boss, all stories, all laughter, all celebration. And then someone handed me the mic. Just say something short, they said. But there was nothing short about what I wanted to say. So I stood, held the mic, looked out at all those faces, my people, the ones who saw me and stayed. I wasn't going to say anything, I started, because this night has already been more perfect than I imagined. But there's something I need to say, not just to thank you all, but to say something to the version of me that didn't think this would ever happen. The room went quiet. There was a time I thought love meant shrinking, that being chosen meant tolerating the cold, the judgment, the backhanded compliments, and the small ways people remind you they think you're less. My voice wavered. Just once. I've been called not enough more times than I can count. Too plain, too poor, too quiet, too intense, too me. But the truth is, none of those things were flaws. They just weren't convenient for people who wanted to control the narrative. I looked at Adam. And then I met you. You never asked me to shrink. You met me where I stood, and every time someone tried to push me down, you reached out and pulled me higher. I could hear sniffles, see shoulders shaking. I want every person here to know, being enough doesn't require permission. You don't need the right dress, or the right job, or the right pedigree. You just need people who see you, really see you, and stay. Raised my glass to everyone who stayed. The room erupted. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like an outsider trying to belong. I belonged. Not because I fought for space at someone else's table, but because I built my own. And the people who sat around it? They were the ones who mattered all along. Our honeymoon was a dream. We didn't go somewhere lavish or exotic. Just a quiet cabin in Oregon with a fireplace, books, and no cell signal. We slept in, made pancakes, hiked through foggy woods, and danced barefoot in the kitchen to old records. It was the kind of peace that feels earned, sacred. But peace has a shelf life when other people are determined to ruin it. We got back a week later. Adam had 47 unread messages. The first few were harmless, congrats from distant coworkers and an old college friend. But buried in the middle was an email from his father's assistant, mistakenly CC'd to him. The subject line read, "Post-wedding statement, draft." I'll never forget the way Adam's expression changed as he read. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even shock. It was the kind of heartbreak that only happens when you realize your own blood never rooted for you. He handed me the phone. I read in silence. We remain disappointed in Adam's decision and will not be recognizing the marriage as part of our family affairs moving forward. Our estate documentation will be updated accordingly. Claire is preparing a private statement to circulate among family peers in order to control speculation. We encourage silence from all inner circle members until the narrative is aligned. The union is expected to dissolve, and we trust Adam will eventually correct his mistake. The email wasn't meant for us, but it reached us anyway. Adam sat down slowly, like his knees gave out. They were planning this, even during the wedding, probably before. I couldn't speak. For once, I didn't have any fiery comeback or poetic closure in my throat. It hurt. Not because of the inheritance or the estate. Those were things I'd never wanted. It hurt because these were people who raised him, people who were supposed to love him unconditionally, and they were ready to erase him because he chose me. "Do you regret it?" I whispered, afraid of the answer. Adam looked up, and in that moment I saw steel in his gaze. Not pain, not guilt, but clarity. "Elise, I didn't marry you to gain anything. I married you to lose everything I never needed." I broke. I buried my face in his chest and sobbed, not because I was weak, but because I finally felt safe enough to be vulnerable. He held me until my body stopped shaking. That night, I wrote a letter. Not to his family, not to defend myself. To myself. It read, "You survived every room you weren't welcomed in. You smiled through dinners where no one looked you in the eye. You endured the subtle cruelty of people who thought they were better than you. But you never stopped loving, never stopped hoping. You stood tall. And now, you have love that doesn't ask you to beg for a seat. You earned this peace. Keep it." I folded it, sealed it, tucked it into the back of my journal. They tried to cut Adam off. They tried to shame him with silence and strategy. But here's what they forgot. Love that survives that much resistance becomes unshakable. The next morning, Adam sent one message, just one, to every contact in that email thread. "We saw the draft. Consider this my formal goodbye." Then he blocked them all, not out of spite, out of survival. 6 months passed. We moved into a small craftsman house on the edge of town. Nothing extravagant, just ours. There's something deeply healing about painting your own walls, planting herbs in your own window boxes, hanging photos where no one can tell you what belongs. We built a quiet life, one filled with morning coffee and Sunday markets, movie, nights under blankets, and the kind of laughter that comes only when you stop performing. I'd started teaching writing workshops at a local library. Adam volunteered at the food bank again, same as the day we met. We weren't trying to prove anything anymore. We were just living. And then, one rainy Thursday afternoon, an envelope arrived. No return address, no stamp, just dropped into our mailbox like a whisper from the past. I knew who it was from the second I saw the handwriting. Claire. Inside, a single page, typed, impersonal. "Adam, we've all had time to reflect. I hope you understand why things happened the way they did. Families are complicated. It was never personal. I would like to meet, just the two of us, to clear the air. Maybe even reconnect. Life's too short for grudges. No apology, no acknowledgement, no mention of me. Just another attempt to rewrite the story. I showed Adam. He read it once, then slid it across the counter. Up to you, he said, but I know where I stand. I stared at that letter for a long time. And then I thought of every version of myself they tried to silence. The girl who wore the wrong shoes, the woman who smiled through insults, the fiancé who dared to believe she was enough. I thought of our wedding night, of the toasts, the mic, the moment I claimed space I'd once been told wasn't mine. And I knew. Some doors don't need to be slammed. They just need to be locked and walked away from. I didn't reply to Claire's letter. I didn't save it. I didn't rage. I didn't even cry. I lit a match, watched the paper curl and turn to ash in the sink. Then I made pasta for dinner and danced barefoot in the kitchen while Adam sang off-key. Closure didn't come from confrontation. It came from peace, and from never needing them to see my worth again, because I finally saw it myself. That's the funny thing about people who tell you you're not good enough. They're usually just afraid of how brightly you'd shine if you ever believed you were. I do now. And I'm not dimming for anyone, not ever again.